Good morning, my friend. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. Tell me today, what do you know about the events of the story of the first church there at Jerusalem? What do you know about the first believers in Jesus Christ and the first people that were called Christians there at Antioch? That's the first place they were called Christians, meaning Christ-like, meaning they had a person they were following behind, and yet so they became followers of them. It's kind of like a city worker. It's called a city worker. A state worker is called a state worker, a state agent. And the agent follows the rules of the state, and he has authority to follow the rules of the state and to enforce the rules of the state. Now, a Christian has the authority from God to walk as a Christian. He has the authority to overrule the world system to the Christ-like answer. And that means you do not act opposite of what you're supposed to do. But what do you know about the word called Pentecost? In the book of Acts, chapter 1 and verse 8, speaking to people who have said, God, I am a sinner, forgive me of my sin, come in my heart and save my soul. But they haven't yet been filled with the Holy Spirit. This was a one-time thing in that day because Jesus hadn't gone to the cross yet. When Jesus went to the cross and said, I will send you another comforter, which was the Holy Spirit. When you confess that you have forsaken your sin and say, God, forgive me of that sin, come in my heart, save me, so I will send the Holy Spirit into your heart. So the first time the Holy Spirit came is called the day of Pentecost. And that was the first time the Holy Spirit came, indwelled more than just one or two or a handful of people, but indwelt every single solitary believer. By the way, Peter preached right after Pentecost, and 3,000 people got saved. Those 3,000 people got the Holy Spirit in their heart all at one time. Now, the receiving the first time of the Holy Spirit was a little different accord than it was on afterwards. What would you liken in this world, in a worldly sense, to what the Holy Spirit is like? If we have an engine that is called a gasoline engine, what must you have for that engine to work? You must have gasoline. If you have no gasoline, that gasoline engine is not going to work. It will not run on other fuels. You may make it spit and sputter, but it won't run. It will not function like it's supposed to. It has to have gasoline. Now, in order to function in the Spirit of God, you have to have the Holy Spirit. Now, how do you get the Holy Spirit, Brother Peter? He is an invited individual into your heart, not just a spirit. He is the third part of the Godhead in the Trinity. Do you mean I have another person living in me? Yes, you do. If you have the Holy Spirit living in you, you have the third part of the Godhead, which means you have the power of God living within you. So you mean you can call on that power? You can, if you live close enough to the power to be able to speak to the power, be able to commune with the power, be able to talk with the power, be able to follow what the power said. There are rules and regulations to that after you have the power of the Holy Spirit come in you. It is called patterning yourself after Jesus Christ. If you pattern yourself after Jesus, you can become a spirit-filled Christian. A spirit-filled Christian is going to act like a Christian. He's going to talk like a Christian. He's going to speak like a Christian. He's going to be guilty of being a Christian. Other people are going to say he is a Christian. And other nationalities that are going to come over here and try to kill you are going to say, if we kill anybody, we need to get that one first. Wow, that's good. I would like to be known to be the first one they want to get, because that means that I'm living close enough to God that people know that I have the power of the Holy Spirit in my life. Jesus said in Acts 1:8 that when you get this Holy Spirit, you will be a witness of me. You'll be a witness of me. And not just where you live in your own home, but just outside of your home. He said in that day in Jerusalem, where they first got the Holy Spirit. And then he said in Judea, means that they were in the city of Jerusalem, and they were going out to the county of Judea, around the county. He said, and not only there, but in Samaria. That means you go out to the state you live in. And then he said, not only there, but to the uttermost parts of the world. And today, that's why we're on this computer, because we're in the uttermost parts of the world. Man, what a blessing to be able to sit right here and to do that. I've had to not leave my family. I've had to not leave my house. I've had to not leave my location. I've had to not go out and sacrifice the tearing away of all that I know and am familiar with, so that I can be a witness throughout the whole world. I can sit down right here in front of the screen and be a witness. But I'm here to tell you, I'm going to tell you something. This is a fearful seat. This is a fearful seat. I have to walk circumspectly, or as Jesus walked, in order to maintain the right to sit down here and represent him. If I'm going to be an ambassador of the kingdom of heaven, and I'm going to have the kingdom of heaven in me, and I'm going to have Jesus in me, I've got to represent him 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and all the minutes that are in those hours. And I've got to represent the Lord, our Savior, into Samaria, into the uttermost parts of the earth. The account around the life of Jesus was a great work to be done. And there were a handful of 12 apostles that were to do that work. Well, in that day, they didn't have the computer, so they had to do it by word of mouth. And not only did they had to do it by word of mouth, but they came against a great opposition. And that opposition caused many of them to die martyrs. That was a thing that God planned. He planned on them dying martyrs. God knew the story from the end to the beginning. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. The only bad thing about dying and leaving here, and it's not really bad at that, but that other people miss you, or people that love you miss you. Other than that, there would be no